as to why I'm in this space and what I do, okay, in case you are not too familiar with it. But my background is I spent 24 years in IT, and then I spent 9 years as an industry analyst at Forrester Research, where I tracked the technology market. Can you hear me pretty well? Is this working for you? Yeah. Okay, good. I tracked the technology market. I wrapped that up in 2007, writing about chief information officers in large companies. And then I got certified in geriatric care management by the University of Florida. I became a volunteer ombudsman for nursing homes and assisted living facilities. And as part of the University of Florida project that I was doing in order to get the certification, I wrote a bibliography of the writing that had been done about technology for older adults, which is where I found very little writing had been done. And I was pointed to in that research effort to Joe Coughlin's 2005 White House Conference on Aging speech. And if you haven't seen it, you can find it on the internet. It's called Cathedral Builders Wanted. And the gist of it was that the industry of technology companies that are trying to help older adults as a set of cottage industry companies, not connected by any unified vision, not integrated and working together, and what was really needed, he said, was a cathedral vision. And having come out of the analyst business, I was in the vision business. And so in 2009, I published a market overview of the categories of technology for aging in your own home. I was already interested in the topic. And what I'm going to talk to you today about is specifically one dimension that is changing, but first I'll set up a little bit. I'm going to have to get a little closer to this thing. Okay. Got it? Yeah. I'm going to talk to you a little bit about voice technology today. And the reason I'm interested in it, because as I've been tracking the technology market these many years, aside from the disruption of getting a browser to access the internet, it's been painful. The evolution of the technology industry has produced technologies that are wrecking the user experience. And it has been declining for a long time. As you know what the smartphone looks like, you know what glass is like, touching a screen. You know what pinching and zooming and tapping and moving things around on screens is like. That is actually getting worse. Things used to be better. We used to have buttons. We used to type. We used to tap keys. And since we've started pinching, zooming, and swiping, the user experience has been getting far worse. And 7 years ago, I was lucky enough to write a report for ARP called Imagining Technology Designed for All. And in that context, and you can see that, that's on my website, somewhere it's on the ARP website. But the gist of that was that there would be a way that technologies could be created that could be designed for all people in all ages, but customized by software for specific groups. So we would not need to have unique and separate hardware for everybody. We would not need to have a senior phone. We would not need to have a senior tablet. We would use the hardware infrastructure that was going to be created for all people and tailor the user interfaces. That design for all concept is instantiated in the world of voice first, and that is why I'm excited about it. Hopefully I'll get it down there on another picture will come up. There you go. So this is the image that I use to describe the technology market for older adults. There's a market overview on my website. You can read through it. It will spell out in some detail the products that are entered into the individual categories that you can see here, communication. And the reason this is a puzzle is because when all of these pieces work together, we, as we age, are going to have a good experience. We will be able to communicate with other people and be engaged. We'll be safe and secure in our own homes. We'll have technologies that help us manage our health and wellness. And we will be able to continue to learn new skills, new things, and contribute to society. That is really why there are 4 puzzle pieces. And what I believe family and professional caregivers can do is they help unify those puzzle pieces into an experience that is how we, in fact, can best serve the older adult population. So the problem is we really need help. Our technology life, if you look at the list of the technologies in each of these categories, and I won't read them to you, but if you just look at those lists, this is a nightmare. This is our technology life today. And it's a mess of new inventions, new widgets, new interfaces, texting being just about the worst one, texting on a phone. We've abandoned the telephone. Grandchildren no longer speak to their grandparents, they text them, or they FaceTime them, or whatever. And it's a chaotic mess with no real ability to hang it together through any user interaction that we can really stand. And it's very sad because we are going to become increasingly dependent on this technology as we age, especially when you know they're closing Social Security offices. They're closing bank branches around the United States. They're expecting us to interact with services online and through the phone. And the social aspects of interactions that you get in those environments, you're not going to be able to get eventually. They will be shut down, and we'll be left with our technology lives. And what's particularly notable in that is that if you are a woman in the United States today and you make it to 65, your life expectancy is on average, inclusive of your various chronic diseases, 88.8. If you're a man, inclusive of your chronic diseases, it's 86.6. And financial planners are now telling people to plan for 95. So create a financial plan that will fund you to live to be 95. That is a lot for people to think about. And in fact, if you look at the savings levels of most baby boomers, and then you look at the savings levels of people age 75 plus, we've got a problem, and it's getting worse. So this is the triangle that Mick described. The point of this is to show dotted line connections. I first wrote this report in 2009, and I wrote this as dotted line connections, saying that people are dependent on connected relationships in order to function. They need the service providers. The families need to help serve the seniors that are in their families. And caregivers, and professional caregivers in particular, all need to be able to update everybody. And sadly enough, that's why they're still dotted. It isn't yet fully working. And the biggest problem we have in this triangle is the lack of social connection for older people. And you have read the statistics, I'm sure, as much as I have, which is that lack of social connection harms health and is equivalent to 15 cigarettes a day. And it is worse than obesity. It is a predictor of cognitive decline. And you know that there are a number of people who are now documenting this. This is actually now a mission of AARP Foundation, is to figure out ways to help mitigate social isolation. United Healthcare's Optum group is trying to do something similar. You keep seeing this phrase now everywhere. No one has really figured out how to mitigate social isolation of older adults who have longer life expectancies, who are separated from their family members through choices about where to live, which I call the Florida problem. You know, Florida has attracted a huge population of older people, but there's no economy for their children. So older adults go to Florida and the children are somewhere else. And so now you really want to have some capability to connect to those older people who want to stay in Florida. If you've ever been to the Villages, you should check it out. It's quite amazing. It's 130,000 people age 50 plus. And the most interesting thing about the Villages now is that they are introducing continuing care retirement communities and nursing homes. Because people want to play golf, they want to have these great lives after they retire, they want to move to the Villages, and they live a long time. So what is changing now is we've now got the ability to access a new user experience. And if you think about the changes over time, and this is all documented in a report I wrote, you don't even have to look at this. It's called The Future of Voice First Technology in Older Adults. And this picture is shown in there. But we've managed to move from character mode typing in the 70s, which was really transformed by the GUI, the graphical user interface. And then we got the web, and then we got Windows 95, and we got all of these changes. We got people actually thinking that what they had to do was design for mobile. And you probably know about this. The phrase mobile first probably comes to mind. And developers were actually doing mobile first designs. And then, as part of designing for mobile, everything we used to access miniaturized. and became more difficult to manipulate. And if you have any tremor in your hand, you have any vision issues, you have a chance periodically to slip off the screen with your finger, designed for mobile actually was the death of the user interface. And smartphones actually, and my favorite phrase, which is sent from my iPhone, which is an apology for the fact that people can't type on that thing. And so they apologize as part of a signature. You believe that? It's a signature on an email that says, sent from my iPhone, so you will forgive me if I make 17 mistakes in this sentence. That's pretty bad. So baby boomers are now just discovering voice assistants, and I want to say that 2017 was a year of experimentation, but in January of 2018, there was a CES bake-off between Google and Amazon that was pretty well publicized. And it was at that point that people began to see there's an opportunity here to actually have a voice interface on everything. And so we are now moving into a world in which only 10% of people in 2019 are predicted to be using voice assistants among the baby boomer population, but that number is low. We don't have any really good predictions right now that are addressing Google Assistant and what you can do with it. So voice assistants are beginning to change our experience with dealing with a smartphone. And for those of you who haven't picked up your smartphone and talked to it and asked it a question, it's pretty impressive. And in fact, I would say it's the breakthrough that has made smartphone interactions, if you're not in a public place, more tolerable. So they're changing our lives. So what is voice first? What does it matter now? Voice first is the category of technology that people are designing first with voice interfaces, and then adding the other interfaces, as opposed to designing for mobile first, screen first, or all the other firsts. And what I would say about a world in which we can speak to devices and hear a response is we have managed to find our first technology delighter in about, I'd say, 15 years. We have not had an experience where we've had a positive interaction with a piece of technology that didn't make us want to tear our hair out, or do the upgrade, or download the patch, or do something that slowed us down from experiencing the technology. We now have something that says, you know, what time is the movie starting at the movie theater down the street, and we can use English. And in some of these products, you can use many other languages to actually ask that question. So by 2020, 50% of our interactions with technology, our questions are going to be through conversations. This one says 30%, that's 2018. 2020, 50%. 90 million smart speakers in 2018 by the end of the year. Most models of cars now have voice interaction capabilities built into the car. And you can actually look on the GM website or the Honda website or any of these websites, and you can see about whether they've deployed Android Auto or Apple CarPlay. You're now at a stage where you can turn on the lights in your house, you can change the TV channel, you can change the temperature, you can play music, you can read books, you can schedule reminders that says it's 4 o'clock to take your medication. You can do all of that from a wheelchair. Now, if you don't think that changes the user experience of the aging, there was a great report that came out in December in 2017, which was the Front Porch Report about the pilot of voice-first technologies at Carlsbad by the Sea. I would recommend taking a look at it. You can now ask Alexa to tell you a joke, and Google Assistant jokes actually have sound effects. So, this is what I mean when I say delighter. You don't expect a sound effect when you say, tell me a joke. And it tells you a joke, it gives you a sound effect that's associated with the topic of the joke, and you sit there and you say, wow, that was delightful. So there's a lot of voice-first technologies today. I don't think I'm going to beat the horse on this, because this is all documented, you can read about it, and it's changing all the time anyway. The more important thing about it is that we are going to move into a world where the hardware platforms are settling into their buckets. Okay? Apple's a hardware platform, Google has a hardware platform, Amazon has a hardware platform, and there's a couple of other attempts at hardware platforms. They are going to settle. Wearables are going to settle. Wearables you can talk to. They're going to settle. They are not the important part of this. They are simply platforms, foundational capabilities, just like your PC or your Mac. You'll have a platform, and then what will evolve, and you won't have to download it, what's going to evolve is the software. And the software will evolve without your effort, and suddenly one day it will have a new capability. Like the Echo now is saying, thank you, or you're welcome when you ask a question. You know, I never expected that, and so that's why it adds delighters as time goes on. These technologies can nag you. They can tell you to eat healthy meals. They can tell you to get up and exercise. They can tell you it's time for physical therapy. Many senior living companies are running pilots. The thing about a pilot is a euphemism for, I don't really know what we're going to do with this. I'm not sure how widely we're going to deploy it. I'm not sure where everybody will be able to pay for it, stand using it, or whether we'll bundle it into our offering. Rarely does a senior living company bundle it into the offering, which I think is a big mistake. But concierge services are being experimented. Like I said, ARP Foundation is doing a pilot for low-income people in Baltimore and Washington. There's a lot of effort to pilot, and that's all documented on my website. You just read a blog post about it. Most interesting is we're entering the world of voice-first technologies for healthcare, and organizations are now offering you, how do you cure a sunburn? Where's the nearest urgent care clinic? What is the solution to a specific set of symptoms I have that I don't know what it is? Can I pay the bill? I was just discharged from a hospital. They're trying that. That's an experiment. So ER discharges. I like this one. This is really an experiment from Optum, which is part of United Healthcare, called Quiz Me, where you can say, what are the ages of my grandchildren? For people who might have trouble remembering their grandchildren. And that is actually a service that is part of a senior center that is actually run by Optum. So I call these experiments because that's the phase we're in. For some, they are rocking and rolling. And that would be, the best example of that is Kids MD out of Children's Hospital in Boston. You should read about that. They've gotten to the point now of evolving Kids MD where the doctor is about to do surgery in the operating room and has a question that he needs answered that would help him in the surgical procedure, and he can ask it. Or a nurse can say, what operating rooms are available? So we can move the patient into that operating room. That is evolving to a level of service in the healthcare space that is beyond, how do I cure a sunburn? You can ask Alexa for parking information if you're coming to a certain hospital. I find that one funny, actually. But they're all experiments, and the patient or the care recipient, who is the me, and I want to know something about me and my health status. The patient is not getting that yet from voice-first technologies because the vendors and the insurance providers are all arguing about HIPAA. But pretty soon they're going to make it past that, and you can ask about your 22 medications that you maybe have been prescribed. And you can ask if you can have this particular medication with a beer or a glass of wine. Or you can ask about your stroke rehab therapy or your diabetes. This is moving us past the world of swipe and pinch and zoom and PCs. So this is what we want. I'm going to just cut to the chase. This is what we want and we don't yet have. So if you're involved in the development of technology for older adults, and you're looking at the role the voice-first interfaces can play in a series of capabilities that include voice, this is what we want. We want proactive technologies that reach out to caregivers and care recipients. Hopefully Amazon and Google will enable that. We want knowledgeable technologies that know something about the conditions we have in our situation. We want sociable and smart technologies that know about our health, our data history. We want predictive technologies that can help us understand what it is we need next. And we want process-aware technologies, which we've always wanted in the technology world. We've wanted not a point technology, not one of 500 new widgets that have been created, but we want to know what is the process these widgets fit into, and how can I use that process, and how does it relate to me? That is pretty important. And so that's all I have to say. So thank you.
So Laurie, don't leave yet. I'm going to give you some time for questions. All right? I'm going to switch out mics.
All right. call them. I'm from Florida. I'm a different time.
So we really thank Laurie for being here. She just worked out her schedule that she was able to come and address us. So we're going to open it up. Any kind of questions for the next few minutes?
Go ahead.
Please introduce yourself and...
Can you hear me with this mic? Yes, you can. Okay, good. I'll try not to spit into it.
Hi, Laurie. My name is Siam Aksani. I'm with World Hearing Organization. So my question is, since 80% of people over the age of 75, 80 can't hear, what if they can't hear Alexa? How good is voice?
Okay, so let's understand what you can do with Alexa, because actually that has been thought about. You can turn the volume on. And I tested this. I whispered, and I think a lot of people have probably tried this, is you whisper within, say, 9 inches of the device, the nine microphone version. It can hear you. It can understand. So it can hear soft voice people, and you can hear it if you're close enough to it and you turn the volume up. If you're fully hearing impaired, that is, you are deaf, Alexa is not going to be so useful except in the text-to-speech interchange with your family members who can hear. And so your family members can place phone calls, they can speak to devices, and believe me, the captioning people have figured this out already. They can speak to devices, and the devices will turn around and caption to the person who's hearing impaired. And you know closed captioning is a free service for everybody to use without paying anything for it. It's the vendors who do the caption translation who are in the business of making money. So anyway, that's what I have to say about that. Voice, so 80%, I don't know where you got that number. The number of people who are fully hearing impaired, that is, cannot hear anything, is a pretty small number, although hearing difficulty affects people who are in their 80s. At least 50% of them are having trouble hearing. So that's hoping that.
We have ours hooked up to the stereo, so.
I'll be happy to share.
Yeah.
Anybody else, questions?
So does anybody know if it's easier for older people to buy stuff from Amazon because of this, or is there any anyone looking to measure that kind of engagement and interaction?
Don't look at me, I'm not getting this money. A lot of people look at Alexa as Amazon's vehicle to help you buy stuff. Okay, and I'm certain that that is where it started. But it is leaping past that. And the idea that you would be able to have all kinds of interactions and access services, and that you cannot anymore say, buy me a dollhouse. Okay, they shut that off. I would say, you could say Amazon is the evil one because it's trying to make money off your interactions and sell you stuff. And of course, Google is not trying to do that, so therefore they are not the evil one. But that has oversimplified the market in a big way. I think you'll see, if you look into it at all, that this is not all about shopping.
There was an article on CNET just the other day. It says, why are people not shopping or buying stuff via Amazon?
It's the dollhouse. They heard about the dollhouse. Yes.
Hi, Dean Tucker. So when you look at what Amazon's done with acquisition rate, for instance, so they're adding some capabilities in terms of camera, other functionality.
Just like Google.
So do you see some opportunity for third parties to play into those platforms, really through Alexa-enabled voice technologies?
Well, there's an army of people who are trying to play into the platforms of voice-enabled technologies, and I would say the mechanism for actually making any money is not yet fully emerged. So it's not going to be an advertising model. You're not going to actually get your service question answered and then say, and now listen to an ad about the latest car from GM. I don't think that's going to be the way it works. But how to make money, I don't have an answer to that yet. I think, aside from consultants out there, I think that will be answered. And there are some skills that have been monetized, and I think you'll see more. Same thing, there's a mixture of services accessed and the services that can make money. There's software to build interactions with the services, and the software makers will make money. There's add-on devices that can be linked in to various platforms, and they will make money selling those devices. And then the platform providers themselves make money by selling the platform. So there's just like in every ecosystem that has existed in the technology world, there's always a way for multiple players at multiple levels of the ecosystem to make money. It doesn't always emerge in year 1, 2, or 3. Anybody else?
So I'm Bert Lawrence. I live in Channing House, which is a CCRC here in Palo Alto.
Okay.
So you mentioned social connections and social isolation only in passing in your text. It didn't show up on any of your slides. Is a picture of the Thanksgiving dinner going to help Grandma have social interactions?
No. No. But voice-enabled technologies in which a call can be made and a conversation can be had by speaking versus typing, texting, emailing, pasting, cutting, or FaceTiming will be an improvement over the mechanisms of interacting with the people who are at the Thanksgiving table and their relatives who can't be there. The mechanisms for solving social isolation are many. They often involve people. You've heard about the one in the UK. Okay, just nothing here that I've mentioned today eliminates the role of people in anything. All I've talked about is a better interface to technology than typing, or tapping, or pinching, or zooming. That's it. But a better interface to technology is a big improvement for all of the people who need access to services and capabilities that are technology enabled. Okay, did that answer the question?
Sort of, but yes.
Hi, to that, you were mentioning the whole, so you can call. The problem is, really, there is no calling our children's generation.
That's a big problem.
It is, but the thing is, that's their generation. That is how, you can't even email them. They will not even look at the email. So it's text or Facebook messaging or, their Snapchat. So it is their culture. So we have to address how are we going to get the grandparents to be able to dive into their culture, because
I have a fundamental problem with that premise, and I'm going to...
I understand, but I have lived it.
Oh, you don't have to tell me. My daughter and I only text. And it's true, actually, of multiple of my relatives who actually are all in my age group. They only text also. So, so I think at some point we have to put our foot down. And we have to say, you can talk to me on the telephone. You can call me. I just don't answer text. I'm done. If you did that, okay, then the question will be, can I call you? And what's a good time? We've given up. This is really a sad commentary on our times, is we, the generation that used to use the telephone, we gave up. And we gotta yank it back, because this is our voice. We want to be heard. Go ahead.
Yeah, I have a couple of questions about, one is, this seems like it could be an alternative to like the life alert button. People can just, like if they call, they can tell Alexa to call for help, as opposed to pushing a button. And then I'm also curious about the safety monitoring, and I guess that you referred to like this, figuring out privacy issues with in-home video.
I didn't actually mention it, but that's a problem.
Yeah. I'm just wondering if you had any comments about, other than like calling for help, or where someone is initiating, wanting help, but ways that.
So I'm a strong. First of all, you can call for help using a voice-enabled device. You can actually, with your Apple Watch, if you happen to have that, you can press that silly button. It's on the Apple Watch, and it'll call 911. That's really appealing. So at some point, the fire departments are going to object to that. My belief in general is if you need help, if you have an emergency, you should be able to interact with a technology that is connected to a call center that is 24/7 that can respond, that is not the fire department. And a lot of people think they can create apps or apps on watches or have a watch with an emergency button on it, and they can skip the call center altogether. I think that's unfortunate because the whole family may be at the movies in a concrete building and they're not going to answer, and there you are, stuck. So I think the whole idea of emergency services should interact with the call center. It can be an app, it can be a pendant you wear around your neck, it can be a voice-enabled capability that a skill can be written for the Alexa, or an action for the Google devices could be written that actually enables you to say, I need help now, and have something call you back and say, Mrs. Smith, are you okay? Mrs. Smith says, well, actually, I'm not okay. Or Mrs. Smith said, I just hit that thing by accident, sorry. But that qualification of an emergency process is required in this, and you can just Google, if you like, fire departments and the Apple emergency button on the Apple Watch, and you'll get to read all about the problems that that's created.
Okay, we can do 2 more questions.
So I'm always worried about the haves and have-nots in this space. You've got net neutrality that's come into play, allowing large bandwidth available to some and maybe not available to others who can afford it. How is this going to shake out in the various technologies that obviously have a monetization requirement? Without the ability to make money, why would Amazon go about doing all these sort of things, or anybody else with technologies?
Well, remember, the platform players make money by selling the platform, okay? Anything else is additive. So the real issue is to use some of these technologies properly, you need Wi-Fi in the home. And so the question is, who's going to help you get Wi-Fi in the home? And then Wi-Fi, of course, needs to be connected to something else in the home that's high speed, that gets you out, that's high speed enough so you can access something. And that's a whole other thing. And so you've got the rural broadband initiatives. You've got all kinds of effort to make broadband access more available to people of lower incomes in rural areas. How's that going? Probably not fast enough. And then the question is, all the players that are in the chain we just talked about all want to make money. So who's going to subsidize them making money? And actually, I think the next big subsidizer of interactions with older adults through technology is going to be insurance companies. And you can already see the experiments going on with Medicare, Medicaid, and Medicare Advantage. And pretty soon, the effort to keep you out of the hospital and not readmitted to the hospital is going to be extensive enough that you're going to be given technologies, trained on how to use them, and that's going to be the way. It's really an avoidance strategy, but it's a good avoidance strategy. So.
Yes. Is there time to speak to that?
Sure.
That'll happen when we get financial people in there that have long-term accountability, but so far they've had very short-term accountability, and so
Are you talking about what?
Medicare and Medi-Cal, they're responsible for the financials for their year, right? So what they get, they're not doing planning for 10 years out or 5 years out because that's not part of what they're rewarded for.
Well, what they're rewarded for is not having you be in the hospital.
Right, for that year.
Okay? But the same thing will happen to them next year.
There's some people from State Farm here, which is a different use case. We should have a conversation. Right? This guy's from State Farm. You guys raise your hand real quick. There you go. We have several representatives of State Farm. And when we start talking about Medicare and Medicaid,
Yeah,
there's
I
more
really,
insurance
I'm
than
not
just those, right?
qualified for that
Right? So there's
conversation.
more, and I'm going to take 2 questions, right? Because we got a full agenda. We got Ezekiel and we got Sherry Hall.
Hello, Ezekiel Halak. So it's clear that there is a sufficient amount of skepticism around the voice first. It's clearly coming, and it's going to become better. clear concerns about the protection around some company hearing you speak in your home and trying to spy on you, all that kind of stuff. So what do you think would be like the top 5 or top 3 skills that need to happen that would delight senior people so much that they will be able to go past their skepticism around voice? Like if you think about the top 3 that if they come up with it in the next 3 to 5 years, people will be like, put this Alexa thing in my house right now, and I don't even care if it's like spying on me all the time, but it's so useful that I love it so much. Please.
Well, the number one thing is stop listening to me. That doesn't exist now. If you have multiple devices in your home, you cannot yell out, stop listening to me now. Okay, so I'd like to see that one. I'd like to see, are my children home right now? And can I call? That would be a great skill. If my child has one of these devices and I have one of these devices, are my children home right now and can I call? Maybe it's a query to my children first before I call. But I would say, are my children home right now and can I call? And the next one is the ability to customize all of the engagement methods that I like. Whether it's make it easier for me to get my internet radio stations that I like. Make it, you can't believe the horse around we've done in my house to get 16 radio stations enabled so that I can say play WQXR in New York. It's a horse around. Make this easy. Anyway, that would be, those 3 leap to my mind, but and I've been a user now of this technology for about 2.5 years.
We have a couple of products here that will tell you if your kids are home.
Good. That's good.
Last question.
Hi, Laurie. I'm Nick from Cherry Hill. So my question is actually, I might be from a millennial age group, but my grandma is saying that she's super happy with mobile phones. So one thing which didn't just resonate with me, so I just wanted to ask, what is wrong with mobile? It actually can listen to your voice. You can say, hey Siri, and it works. You can say, hey Siri, FaceTime my kids, and it calls them, and you see them on video, which is better than just calling. Or you can, oh yeah, my Siri is now calling. And what is good, you can use the ways the kids communicate with each other with voice through mobile. So why is that death of you?
I didn't say there was anything particularly wrong with mobile as a way of communicating. What I said was voice first enhances the ability to communicate because you can speak. And the fact that your grandmother is saying, hey Siri, is because you trained her to do so. You showed her how to do it, and she now became proficient enough to be able to do it. Now ask her, go search for a recipe for making apple pie that has the following ingredients in it. Now ask her to do that. That's not going to be so easy. If she's even found the search capabilities on her iPhone. I think you missed my point. My point is the next generation of interfaces can augment the ones that have limitations, and that's where voice first comes in. And if she's doing great with Siri, more power to her. I'm not going to in any way critique that. I'm simply saying we have an opportunity right now. You know about in cars now, you can talk to technology. We've come a long way. We have a ways to go.
Thank you, Laurie.